Frank Ryan wasn't the most stylish of quarterbacks, but in 7 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, he got results. Ryan was cast as a supporting player to Jim Brown, number 32. But the great fullback knew that for the Browns to win a championship, he would have to share the ball with this lanky Texan who had a Ph.D. in mathematics.
Frank was a different type of guy. Paul Brown said that he liked to get a lot of people playing football with average intelligence. If you were dumb, you couldn't understand what he was trying to get done on the field. If you're too smart, you'd say, why am I here? And Frank would have fallen in that category.
We call Frank baby cakes.
The fact that he would still remember that is flattering to me.
Here's a kid, guy got mathematics, and he's everything except what a quarterback should look like, right?
Egghead is the word that a lot of people use. I think that Frank's genius scared a lot of people away. Why would you want to run into Frank Ryan? You're immediately intellectually inferior.
You could tease him, but you could never go one up on him. Because if you got into that, he'd whip you. You'd walk away thinking you got him, and 2 minutes later you said, no, he got me.
I had come from a wonderful school, Rice University, and most of the students that are athletes there are true student athletes. So going on to graduate school, to me it was sort of an accepted sort of thing to do. And I didn't think it was weird. The writers did, for some reason.
Ryan's Ph.D. was a source of fascination for the media. Jim Murray of the Los Angeles Times wrote, "The Browns have a quarterback who understands Einstein's theory of relativity, and 10 other guys who didn't know there was one." But for all of his genius, Ryan's early career was characterized by costly mistakes. After his first 5 seasons, he had twice as many turnovers as touchdown passes, and he considered quitting football to become a school teacher. But when Blanton Collier took over as Cleveland's head coach, he rebuilt Ryan's confidence. And in 1964, Ryan led the league with 25 touchdown passes.
I had a lot of confidence in Blanton Collier. He gave me some tips in throwing a football that I'll never forget. One of them was, how do you pick out a pretty girl in Grand Central Station when there's, 2,000 people milling about in there? And he says the first thing you do is you find one, and then you keep your eye on it, and you find something about that pretty girl that you know you're going to recognize, and you just keep looking at it. And the same thing with throwing a football. Your margin of error in throwing a football is reduced if your focus of concentration is smaller, so that when I'm throwing the ball, even in practice, I would throw at a chin instead of at a face. Little things like this were precious to me.
Ryan may have been a scholar, but he played football with a warrior's heart, never flinching in the line of fire.
Extremely courageous, would stand right there and hold that ball to the very last second. Sometimes we'd be hollering, throw it, throw it, throw it.
It wasn't a matter of courage, it was a matter of thirst for success. I wanted to complete that pass. I wanted particularly to complete a touchdown pass, and so I would just wait and wait until I had that opportunity. That was probably the only strong point I had as a quarterback.
Ryan had his best season in 1964 and led the Browns to their first conference title in 8 years. But Ryan knew his season would be defined by his performance in the championship game against Baltimore.
And the night before that game, as the team would generally do, we went to a movie together. Turned out the Colts were at the same movie. And there was a little heckling that went on. And I think that just sort of set a little spark. The next morning, people started talking. Can you imagine that guy said that sort of thing,
The Colts were so confident. Their band serenaded Ryan, Jim Brown, and the other Browns at their hotel prior to the game.
They started to play taps, poking fun at us. So Jim, sit there and take it. Never said a word, sit there and take it. Before we get ready to get in his car, there at the hotel, he says, "Woot." I guess I can say this. He says, "We're going to kick the hell out of these guys today."
The Colts were 12-point favorites, largely because they had John Unitas at quarterback, while Ryan was making his first postseason start for the Browns. But the Baltimore defense, which baffled every quarterback in the league that season, was no match for the genius of Dr. Ryan. That day, Frank Ryan struck a blow for every math teacher and Phi Beta Kappa in America. He threw 3 touchdown passes, all to Gary Collins, number 86, as the Browns romped to the NFL championship. That was the high point of Ryan's career. By 1971, he was out of football and working in Washington, where he designed the first computer voting system for the House of Representatives. He has since returned to academic life as a math professor and administrator at Yale and Rice universities. But in Cleveland, Frank Ryan is remembered as the last quarterback to lead the Browns to a world championship. A quiet man who proved mind can prevail over matter, even in the NFL.